Snail Games announces Dark and Light, Trion reveals a brand new expansion for Rift, all that and more. I'm Zach Sharps and this is Free to Play Weekly. First up in the news this week, those of you looking for a more intense PvP action experience in the free-to-play Riders of Icarus, you might be able to get your fill soon. One of the future updates to the game, as announced by Nexon, will include a brand new and dangerous region for characters level 28 and above. This zone is called the Exaram Badlands, and it's a region where everyone except for your guild, alliance, and party are potential foes, targetable in combat. You'll have to watch your back while questing in this region, but on the bright side, there is no penalty for death. Guilds can form alliances to war with each other, and the first guild to amass 200 kills wins the war. The prize for braving these lawless wastes are some new and shadowy mounts, and the winners of the wars get exclusive familiars and other rewards. Sounds pretty neat if you ask me, and to get your hands on it, you'll only have to wait until later this month. Speaking of neat things, last week we discussed how Snail Games is ramping up their MMO production, and this week they showed off another game that we'll soon be able to get our hands on. The title is called Dark and Light, and it's a free-to-play sandbox MMO. Built in the Unreal 4 engine, the game has been in production since 2004 and sports a 40,000 square kilometer world. Everything in Dark and Light's world are integrated to the point where a change in either the weather, wildlife, plants, and more will impact the others. Since the game's original introduction in 2004, the game has seen a significant amount of changes, probably even the engine, adding improvements to visual fidelity and changes to the game world, including more fantasy elements such as sorcerers, and randomly even some aliens. All I know from this announcement is I'm on the Snail Games hype train. Once we know of a release date in the Western market, we'll definitely let you know on MMOBomb.com. Earlier this week, Arc developer Studio Wildcard made the decision to roll back the free-to-play standalone Survival of Fittest back into the main, not free-to-play title Arc Survival Evolved, basically making it a buy-to-play title once again. The primary reason for this change was the release of the Arc development kit, but Studio Wildcard also stated that they didn't really know how to monetize Survival of Fittest, and they didn't want to hire folks on that could figure it out for them. For those who love Survival of Fittest though and are now worried that you can't play it, don't fret. If you downloaded the game prior to this move, you are in the green. You're able to play the game still. Overall, this strikes me as a pretty honest PR answer, and I have to give them props for it. They didn't try and BS us and cover up their move by saying free-to-play isn't fun or filled with pay-to-win or any other of the recent excuses that we've heard. They just stated that they didn't feel like fully completing the process. So kudos Studio Wildcard for keeping it real. Those of you looking to dive into another free-to-play CCG might be happy to hear that at QuakeCon, Bethesda announced that the open beta for The Elder Scrolls Legends is now live. If you want to jump into the free-to-play CCG, get started by downloading the Bethesda launcher. Once you're done, you can select the game and get started downloading it. As for what the game does differently, Legends touts a 2-lane system along with the standard card game elements you might expect, plus it has a single-player campaign that's story-based. Unfortunately, this open beta is currently limited to the PC version of the game, but expect PC, Mac, iOS, and Android versions soon. The game is currently slated for release by the end of 2016, and if you want to know more about it before downloading it, we do have a first look live up on the channel, so definitely go check that out. After accidentally leaking their new expansion by putting up for sale before announcing it, Trion Worlds has officially announced Rift's brand new expansion, Starfall Prophecy. The expansion, which features 5 new zones, new dungeons, a new raid, planar assault, new adventures, fortress sieges, a level cap raised to 70, and a whole lot more, will cost you a whopping $39.99 USD for the standard edition, or you could fork over a little bit more money, aka $59.99 for the deluxe edition. Despite my current boycott of Trion Worlds titles, Rift has always seemed to be mostly sort of the exception from Trion's current shenanigans. I mean, there's been a little bit of issues here and there, but mostly I feel like if it was this Trion's only game, I would be completely fine playing it. But with that said, it does beg a question, so it's time for the question of the week. Last week on the show, I asked the question, should free-to-play games participate in Steam Early Access? Most of you guys stated no, unless of course the game is actually free-to-play while it's in Early Access, which I didn't really see coming. I kind of figured it would be more of a 50-50 split, especially since Founders Packs have been a thing for a while, but I was wrong. So that brings us to this week's question. If you want your comment to possibly be featured in next week's show, make sure to leave a comment down below. This week's question is, if one game in a publisher's portfolio appeals to you, but their past decisions have been very questionable, would you still support them or do a full boycott? Personally, I believe if you protest something while actively buying into it, i.e. playing it, you accomplish nothing and your voice isn't really that heard. However, I'm really curious where you guys land in all this. Last up in the news this week, we continue on with more Trion news as they made another questionable, but at least this time understandable move regarding Atlas Reactor. Have you ever seen a game go from free-to-play to buy-to-play to a hybrid before it's even out of beta? Well, now you have with Atlas Reactor. Yes, Atlas Reactor has a free-to-play option now, but with a fair bit of limitations. Rather than having access to all of the freelancers all the time, players will now be able to play a rotating selection and that's it. You can't progressively get more as you play the game. You basically just have to purchase something in order to unlock all of them in order to be utilized all the time, and the only rewarded items are cosmetic items while actually playing the game. This move comes from Trion finally realizing that their game is niche and they needed a free option from the start to garner interest. Plus, this free-to-play move also gives them more press among all the free-to-play websites out there and even just online gaming websites in general, because Trion's a pretty large company, so I'm sure that was in their thought process as well, especially since, like I said, their game is niche and they need to get more eyes on it. Understandable move from a business perspective, but very silly that they put themselves in this position to begin with. You know what isn't silly? Giveaways, of course. Yes, be sure to head on over to mmobomb.com. Check out that giveaways page, bookmark it, and check it daily to ensure you never miss one. As for myself, signing out until next week's show, my name is Zach Sharps, and I'll catch you guys next time.